Today on Season 2 of the Color Outside the Box podcast.
You may tell a child to do something, but you're not even doing it. Mm-hmm. But see, if you lead the way and set the example before them, then that helps along the way.
Color Outside the Box is a podcast series that focuses on creating a better you. Whether it's advice about family, relationships, raising children in this technological world, marriage, or careers, we seek to find the answers to help you live your best life. So start your Monday morning off right with me, your hostess with the mostest, Princess Miller, on Color Outside the Box right here on iTunes and everywhere podcasts can be heard. Well, good Monday morning, and thank you for tuning in to the Color Outside the Box podcast with your hostess, Princess Miller, and we are back again with our final show for this series. Miss Keirston Gaines is here with us. Good morning, Miss Keirston.
Good morning, Princess. How are you doing?
Oh, these shows, my goodness, they've been good, but they've been emotional. So today we're going to talk about the last leg of this segment. We're still talking about issues that kids are facing today, but we're going to talk about disrespect and willful disobedience. Oh my goodness. As a principal, assistant principal in the school system, I know you have seen your fair share of disrespect and willful disobedience. Yes. So let's talk about it. Give us some examples that you've seen of children being disrespectful.
Well, some examples may include cursing in authority figures, yelling, throwing things, calling names to teachers, being rude, things of that nature.
Yeah. And the reason why I wanted to do this show is I'm not trying to say all kids are bad, all parents are not good.
Right.
But what we want to point out to you is some instances where children are being disrespectful outside the home and how to deal with that as a parent. You know, sometimes we may have missed an opportunity to teach them that lesson of, you know, I got a little nephew, smart as a whip, head of his class, first grade, every day. His boy come home, not every day, but most days, come home, he done did something. Because he's the only kid, only child, so he's used to, you know, getting his way. And so when he get to school, he doesn't understand that because I got my way at home and I could yell and jump off stuff at home, I can't do that at school. Right. So it's been a culture thing, but a culture shock for him. But he's learning how to conduct himself at school versus at home, and his parents are trying to instill that in him. But at the same time, you know, I'm 6 and I'm, you know, used to having fun and doing what I want to do. And now I got to go to school and I got to follow the rules. Like I called him the other day and I said, how was school today? He whispered, it was not good. I said, it was not good. No. I said, well, what happened? I was on orange. I said, why were you on orange? Not following directions. He trying to whisper to me because his mama in the room, in the next room. So he trying to quietly tell me what he did. But it, you know, people sometimes they don't understand the importance of telling a kid, no, you know, don't yell in the house. You know, don't do this, don't do that. And then they get to school and they're like, shoot, the way I conduct myself at home is I'm gonna conduct myself at school. And they're in for a rude awakening when they find out, you know, I can't yell and respond to my teacher, or this kid did something to me. I can't just go punch him out. Right. Because they was picking on me yesterday, so I'm going to get them back today. You know, so, you know, talk to us about how can we as parents, because a lot of times we listen to this after the fact. You know, how can we as parents deal with situations where our kids are being disrespectful? Is that a teaching opportunity, or is that an opportunity to knock them out? No, I'm joking.
Both.
As my pastor say, beat them, they won't die.
Yeah, both. Well, they definitely still need to be disciplined at home. But I also think that it's learned behavior. Sometimes the way the parents act in the home, they carry it on to school.
Mm-hmm.
If the parent and the child get into a shouting match and a cursing match at home, then when they come to school, they feel like it's okay to curse and yell at the adults in that building.
Mm-hmm.
So I do feel like parenting is number one.
Mm-hmm.
And also, during that time, give your children examples. What's the definition of respectful? And give me some examples of what respect mean.
Mm-hmm.
And likewise, disrespectful. Okay, this is an example of being disrespectful right here. I don't want you to exhibit this once you leave this house. Well, while you're in this house, and plus while you're at that school. Do not exhibit these type of behaviors. So I think as parents, we should just define those words. You know,
Mm-hmm.
what's the definition of respect? How does respect look? What's the definition of disrespect? How does disrespect look? And also just remember and be mindful of how we parent.
Mm-hmm.
If they see you yelling and screaming and cursing, then like I said from the previous session, that's learned behavior. They're picking up on those traits. Therefore, they're going to carry that with them wherever they go and display those same traits that they learned in the home environment.
And that is so true. I was dealing with the kid. It's been years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I was taking his mom to church with me.
Mm-hmm.
And the child was doing something. He was maybe 3 or 4. He said he was doing something he wasn't supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And the mama wasn't saying nothing. So, of course, you in my car, you know, you ain't finna be cutting up and all that. So I told him to sit down somewhere and be quiet. The child cussed at me.
Say what?
Yeah, the child cussed at me. And I looked at the mama. I said, what did he say? And she said, girl, he be listening to my mama. She just be cussing and saying all kind of stuff because he be at home with her all day. And he just picked it up. Boy, just be quiet.
No, ma'am. Where did the correction come from? Did she correct him at any time during that car ride?
No, she did not.
No, ma'am. Mm-mm.
No, she did not. We get to church. And he acting up in church. So, of course, she gonna use that as an excuse as to why she can't come back to church because her baby keep acting up. I said, okay, I'll be right back. I put that finger up. Mm-hmm. And you know, behind the church, we got that good switch tree. I went out there and got me one of them good switches. Mm-hmm. And I came back in there and sat back down. I said, now you move or say something one more time. And she looking, cutting her eye at me like she didn't want me to say nothing to her child. Supposed to be my godchild. Mm-hmm. Didn't want me to say nothing to the child. And that boy acted right for the rest of the service. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But because there was no discipline, he was allowed to be disrespectful. And she allowed him to do that and did not correct him. So much so that later on in life, it became an issue when he came to school. Mm-hmm. And parents don't equate, well, I'm just letting him be free and allowing that child to do and say or whatever. And then when they get to school, they want to carry that same behavior into the classroom. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, when you allow that to happen, they carry that same attitude to work. Mm-hmm. I had a job. I have never seen 30 and 40-year-old women. They weren't even 30s. I was the youngest. They were in their 40s. Mm-hmm. Acting like little kids. They have a bad day coming to work. They come to work and throw a tantrum. Fussing, cussing, yelling at folks. Because they had a bad day coming to work. And expected us to be okay with it. And I was like, wow. Mm-hmm. These folks don't even know how to act. And they grown with children.
And that's why the kids act the way they act. They don't know how to control their emotions. They let their emotions control them. And whenever you let your emotions control you, that's a recipe for disaster. Mm-hmm.
The Bible says that a man who cannot control his temper is like a city without walls. Mm-hmm. You know, you have to, number one, learn how to carry yourself in society so you can teach your children. And then you got to teach them. Mm-hmm. Because children don't learn by osmosis.
Right.
They have to be instructed. The Bible said, train up a child in the way that they should go. And when they are older, they will not depart. Well, the training means you have to sit down and you have to literally have a conversation with your child. Because, you know, my kids, they're inquisitive. And there was one situation, And they was like, well, why can I not do that? Number one, you don't ask me why. You just do what I tell you because it's because I said so. Number two, you don't know what the consequences of your disobedience will bring. So you have to literally have a conversation. You don't yell in class, because when you do, then you're disrupting the learning process. The teacher have to stop and deal with you. And then you're going to end up ultimately being put out or kicked out. And you don't want that to happen. So you have to literally, it's like having a class. You have to literally teach them. Just like you teach them how to clean a room and you teach them how to wash dishes, you have to teach them how to act. And a lot of times parents allow television, social media,
their friends,
to teach their children how to act. And they omit that conversation. And then sometimes I have found that just because you had it one time don't mean you're good. You ain't got to have that conversation no more. No, it may mean, a couple of weeks later or a couple of years later, you got to reiterate. And what I found is with teenagers, you may have to have that conversation almost on a daily basis. Because for whatever reason, you could tell them one thing today and then I ain't hear you. What you said?
Yeah.
It take a lot of patience to deal with teenagers.
It does.
So talk to us about disobedience. We talked about in the classroom. What are some other behaviors that you saw that may be seen as willful disobedience? And how do we as parents deal with that?
Well, like I indicated earlier, things that I have noticed or what I have witnessed, kids, they don't know how to communicate without cursing. They can't hold a sentence without using a curse word. And that's a problem.
But you know what? When I was watching this show, they were saying the S word and the F word as if it's okay on regular television. And they have fought so hard to push the line when it comes as far as television entertainment is concerned, to where they can be, as they say, free to express themselves. Sometimes I think they take I think it's the Second Amendment, freedom of expression, and they just use it for whatever. If I want to wear a shirt that say F you on it in public, I should be able to because I'm expressing myself. No, you should have enough common courtesy and decency for your neighbors, especially if you're in society and other children are reading that, to say, no, I better not wear something like that. But they use that Second Amendment as a badge of honor. I can do whatever I want to do if I'm expressing myself. I come to school dressed like a girl and I'm a boy if I'm expressing myself. And, I'm throwing it out there because people use that, to...
I think society and social media, they open doors to situations that we consider not appropriate. I feel like they're trying to desensitize us and make us accept things that we know that's not right. That we know that's not right. And like you were saying about the television show years ago, it wasn't that much cursing on television.
Oh yeah, definitely. If they said the H word, it was like, ooh, they said the H and the D word.
Yeah. A lot of things that we years ago would not accept, society and television make it the norm now. And I think a lot of times when kids watch television, videos, different people they look up to, what are some of these rappers, they take on what they see them doing and display those behaviors. And
a lot of times, those behaviors make them money, but that's not who they really are.
Right.
I think it was one time I was reading an article on Eminem. Now, I'm not a fan of Eminem. I know one song, Slim Shady. I don't know any of his other music.
That was like we was in high school.
But I read an article and they were talking about stop rapping for a long time. They was like, well, where have you been? What's been going on with you? He said, I was raising my children. He said, so I took a break from rapping and because I needed to be home with my kids and be present for them. And now that they're grown, I'm about to, I'm revisiting the idea of coming out with music. And so they said, well, have your kids, listen to your music? He said, no, I don't allow my children to listen to my music. And I was like, wow, you have put that out there. And I'm going to say for our children, but my kids didn't listen to them. But put that out there for people's kids to listen to.